And welcome, my friends, to yet another episode of the Mind Dog TV podcast. I'm Matt Now. Thanks for coming. It's great to have you here as always. Today, we're going to talk about leadership with somebody who is known as the CEO confidant. I'm very interested to have this conversation because it not only has to do with helping people better run their businesses and improve their bottom line, but a little bit about philanthropy, which I'm always interested in. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm very excited to get to that. First, I want to start with an explanation of sorts, and I guess some kind of an apology. Oh, we're having some issues in the background. I will get to that in just a minute. First, I need to kind of talk about the issues from last night. If you're looking for last night's program and wondering what happened, I scraped it. We did, and 230 episodes that we've done so far. Had some great guests on, some really powerful people, some entertaining people, some really funny people, some people with just some great insights. And then last night happened, and I take full responsibility for it. But my guest last night was beyond strange, weird, abusive, and a lot of other things that we won't get into. But so I decided not to create the podcast from last night's programs, and I pulled down all the video of it from the live stream so that they won't go live. So if you're looking for them, that's the explanation. And I do apologize for that. It won't happen again. We will do a much better job of vetting people like that before they get on the program. And all the responsibility, of course, falls on me. I know the guy who produced the program last night was feeling really bad about it, like it was his fault. No, it all falls on me. The buck stops here. That was my bad call. And I thought we were going to talk about his film career, the guest film career, but that did not happen. So I am aware that this kind of talk may get people curious and want to know more about it. Just know that it won't be online at all, and you won't be able to find it. We're going to try to scrape it from our memory bank. I'm going to do a couple of things here, talk about the product demo that I need to do, run my sponsor, and then I'm going to run a brief music video so I can help my guest get straightened out with his camera situation. He's in the green room right now with some technical difficulties. So while we do that, I will help him. But first, I want to talk about this stuff. This is My Vital C. If you're a fan of the program and you follow, and you're probably sick about hearing all this stuff, My Vital C is this stuff. Is Chris Burris was with me a couple of weeks ago, and he's from SES Research, and we were talking about his new product, My Vital C, that it's not really a new product. It's been out since 2013. But the bottom line is, while he was a grad student in 1991, they discovered this carbon molecule and did some toxicity testing on lab mammals, and found out that not only was it non-toxic, but it increased the lifespan of the lab mammals that were tested 90% or more, without any tumors, without any side effects whatsoever. And so it went through rigorous testing before the FDA could approve it for human consumption in 2013. And humans have been using it since 2013. And so the claim is now that it can increase your lifespan by as much as 90% or more, which of course is an extraordinary claim. And we don't have any 140-year-old humans walking around that we can use to kind of validate that. So that's an unusual claim. And I said, I'm skeptical about it. And Chris said, well, here's the deal. Why don't you try it? I'll send you a bunch. We can try it for free. Have me back in 6 to 8 weeks, and we'll discuss your results. So I've been doing it now. Just today is my 15th day. Oh, we see my guest has got his camera worked out, so we won't have to run that music video after all. So I told him I would be willing to try this stuff and share my results. I will tell you this: I had 13 days of very positive results, and then yesterday hit and not so positive results. I was actually very burnt out yesterday, but for those 13 consecutive days, I had a lot more energy, was sleeping better. The reason I'm doing it on air is simply this, to hold myself accountable, to present it to you, so we have proof that I'm doing it every single day, so that when he comes back on October 29th, we can review the results, knowing full well that I actually did what I said I would do and try it twice a day, every day until he comes back. And so far, the results have been good, except for one day. I can't say anything about the longevity claims that are being made. Obviously, I'm not going to be trying this long enough to say, well, it's going to help me live longer. But I will tell you, it has improved the quality of life somewhat. I've been more energetic, sleeping better, and all that stuff, except for yesterday. So here goes. I'm going to do this really quick and get rid of it. The one thing, I was taking it with a shot of water, chaser. The one thing I will recommend to him when he comes back, is that we got to do something about making it taste better. You know, they can make cough syrup taste better for people who have a tough time with cough syrup. They should be able to do something with that because it's god awful. My sponsors today, FundWise Capital, a business lending platform. They're a lender matching platform that gets you the best credit lines guaranteed. You can apply online in 60 seconds or less, and there's no effect to your credit to see how much you can get. Use the funding for anything you need to start or grow your business. That's right, I said start or grow your business. If you don't have a business yet, but you got a solid business plan, they can help you get funding to get your business started. Get the best funding you can qualify for. Their strategic lending matching platform searches through hundreds of lenders to find the best possible options for your unique situation. They have hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, Trustpilot, and Facebook, and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They provide unsecured lines of credit at 0% interest for 9 to 15 months, unsecured term loans, loans based on your income, short-term gap funding, or bridge loans. They work with real estate, startups, as I mentioned, franchises and restaurants, any kind of businesses, any kind of project. To get started, it's really easy. Just go to apply.fundwise.com/minddog. That's apply.fundwise.com/minddog. The links will be in the description as always, and I do appreciate you patronizing my sponsors. I hope I get this name right because my guest was having some difficulties, and I haven't had the opportunity to ask him the exact pronunciation of his last name. I am going to take a guess here, and if I get it wrong, I'm sure he'll correct me. Angel Rebo, known as the CEO Confidant, is an influencer, international TV host, public speaker, CEO consultant, board member, and a philanthropist. In the last 25 years, Angel has empowered more than 1,500 CEOs in 33 different countries. He was born in near Barcelona, Spain, and has lived in 8 countries and speaks 5 languages. It's my privilege to introduce him to you. Ladies and gentlemen, please open your ears, open your minds, and help me welcome in Angel Rebo.
Thank you very much. That was a pretty thoughtful introduction. Thank you so much for being so kind and so patient. Not only to you, but obviously to your audience. Thank you.
Did I get your name right?
Oh, absolutely. You did.
Oh yeah. Good for me. Good for me. I'm happy about that.
Totally. You must be pronouncing Spanish names of Catalan people like every single day on your show.
That and a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, people from all over the world, and sometimes I'm scared just by reading them. I get names without any vowels in them at all. So
Totally.
my greatest fear, and I hate to disrespect people by getting their name wrong, and so it's good to know I got it right. So thank you, and thanks for coming here. So let's talk a little bit about you and the path that led to where you are today, and your work with CEOs. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, let's say since I was a kid, although my mom and dad had very humble origins, they always wanted me to learn foreign languages, and I think that was the most important thing that happened in my childhood was that I was taking French lessons because at that side of Spain we were so close to the French border that we were all learning French in the school. But also at the same time, mom and dad wanted me to take English lessons on a private academy in the afternoon, in the evening. So I started to do that, and Fast forward, I found myself that I wanted to have a better, professional future, and Spain wasn't enough. Spain wasn't enough. I wanted to. I had been using my French and my English for some, clients here and there, but I said I really want to have an international career, and I decided actually to accept a job in London. And that was definitely the start of my international career, but also the start, I would say, of my business development career. So I started working for, interestingly enough, an American company based in London. And I started to serve many different customers in different European countries. I was communicating with them in French, in Portuguese, in English. I was dating a German girl at that time, so I was actually using even German. So, I was always like using different languages. And fast forward, I always was traveling. I was literally, I think I've closed business in more than 33 countries, working with this many companies. And I was always doing the same thing. So I was always helping my employers to develop their businesses, to develop like distribution channels, indirect sales models, reseller channels, these kind of things on those countries. So I always was blessed of having teams around me that were supporting my challenges, and I always was working for the kind of businesses that we were conducting. We always had to reach the C-level, so we always had to reach the high-level executives of those corporations, because actually the amounts also of the deals we were closing were pretty sizable. So, and I was doing that first from Europe, from London. I moved to Mexico, lived there for 10 years. Then I've been living in Plano, Texas, for 10 years now. But always the same thing, using this international background and going to so many countries and dealing with so many people with so many different cultures, and always helping them solve their business issues using the technologies or the services at hand.
Wow. Interesting stuff to unpack in that stuff. Well, let me just tell you a little bit about my experience and why I'm going to be asking the questions I am going to be asking will probably be revealed in this little bit. I have had many careers. I've been a creative person my whole life and been involved in creative stuff, but I had a lot of opportunities or necessity to take day jobs and careers. Been a marketing director, a technical director, a junior vice president in a corporation with 27,000 employees. Spent a lot of time. Every single job I've had for the last 35 years before I took this. Now I am a CEO, but before I started doing this, my direct report was the CEO of the company. And what I found is, at least here in America, now you work internationally, so it might not be the same, and I've had probably 7 or 8 that I thought about last night, where I reported directly to the CEO, and the CEO was the most out of touch with the culture of his own company, the one who really did not understand what the people underneath them were doing, what their culture was, or what their mission really was, and what drove them. I find that to be epidemic, and with talking with business leaders on this podcast, it seems to be holding true in the United States. So why is it that I understand the CEO is the decision maker and the guy who's going to sign your check, but why is it you start there? Why not with the people who are really running the company, like the junior vice presidents and those people who really have their pulse on the company?
Are you asking me why do I stop with the CEOs?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, I don't stop.
Okay.
I don't stop. So, I've been working with them. I've been helping them. I have been empowering them. But, and you just answered the question. The reason is, you just said it.
They signed a check.
There's the board, right? There's the board. There's the CEO. There's the leadership team, right?
Right.
And there's this gap. Typically, CEOs and boards are pretty aligned. Okay, let's put it this way. They're very aligned.
Right.
There's starting to be a gap between the CEO and his leadership team. Oh my Lord. The gap between the leadership team and the rest of the company is huge.
Right.
So that's why, due to the fact that we had to deal with these large projects and these large amounts and everything, large dollar amounts and everything, I had to necessarily work with them to have the sign off. But the nitty-gritty, the dirty work, obviously was done with the leadership team, and most importantly with what I call the business operators, the rest of business operators. But I am totally with you. And you know what? I think that this is, so I think that as soon as business operators start to be aware of the implications of what they do, and actually the CEOs empower their business operators to do that, to know the exact, the consequences of their business decisions while they work there, this gap that you just mentioned, this lack of, oh my God, I see all these people in the company, but at the top, maybe it's not that clear what these other guys should be doing.
Right.
That thing that you experience yourself like firsthand, it happens every single day. Every single day. So first identify the gaps and then do something about it. So then the follow-up question, if I may, actually, I might even ask that question to you, which is, why wouldn't the CEOs take action?
Right.
Why wouldn't they do it?
Right.
Why wouldn't they do it? So if they're already aligned, it's because maybe they think that, I have a business partner. His name is Neville Joffe. He has this amazing motto that he follows, or he calls him Nevilism. It's revenues are vanity. Okay.
That's a good one. I like that.
Profits are sanity, and cash flows are reality. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So how many? Let me ask you a question, or even let me ask you a second follow-up question. When you meet with the board, do you actually talk about revenues and market share, or rather talk about how did you make your company more profitable thanks to deploying a culture that everybody is engaged with and that keeps everybody accountable the right way? Let me emphasize that, the right way.
Right. Well, I would probably, I'm not sure if I'm going to get this right, but I'm going to guess it. Most CEOs are just talking about the bottom line, profits, and all that stuff, and not really concentrating on how to improve the culture and productivity the right way.
It's like that famous, that very famous visual of an iceberg in which you only see the peak, you see the peak, of the iceberg, but what about the rest? What's going on in the organization? Right. So there's a lot of things going on in the organization, a lot of things. And actually, right now, with everything that's going on in the world, with all this, with the current state of affairs, I think that most of those inefficiencies, most of these issues are coming to the surface. And
right.
Me having worked internationally, obviously, immediately you start thinking, what about diversity? Diversity of cultures, diversity of people, diversity of religions, of sexual orientations, all this diversity. I talk to C-levels every week. I was talking to a couple of headhunters the other day, and he said, I can't cope. Listen to this. I can't cope with the number of requests I get of chief diversity officers right now.
Wow.
Chief diversity officers. I don't know where to find them. Well, I can find them easily, but where are those experienced people that have worked internationally, that have embraced this culture, really know how to deal with a mix of cultures, with a melting pot of cultures that are going to help you create efficiencies inside your corporation?
Right. Wow. Well, that's something to unpack there too, because you did mention in your opening statement there about knowing the different cultures of different countries that you've lived in and that kind of stuff. And we talk about culture in a couple of different ways here. There's countries have different cultures and companies have different cultures. Does the cultural influence of a company, is that affected by the country culture? Like, is culture, corporate culture, a bigger issue in the United States, say, than it would be in Spain or Portugal or France or wherever, or is it the same kind of challenge?
Well, number one, definitely the country where let's say where the headquarters of that corporation is, and I have lived that firsthand. The country of the health, where the headquarters of this company is, definitely define the culture of the entire organization.
Right.
And I've myself lived in transitions. You might have lived the same experience. Transition of a company that was fully American, and transitioned. It was bought out by someone else in another country. I'm not going to mention it. And suddenly the culture started to change, and it was coming from this other country. Was it better? Was it worse? Well, you can't tell. You can't tell until you start seeing the consequences. You start seeing the implications. You start seeing how does that translate to the way you communicate with the rest of the people, with the rest of your peers, your managers, the people that report to you. And then answering your second question, if culture is, let's say, an issue or can be a challenge in any country, or if countries have the same kind of culture creation problems as we have in the US, I would definitely say yes. I think it really depends on business leaders. And I really think that, again, with all this current state of affairs, that's gonna help everybody a lot. I think that they are realizing that now that the people cannot meet and cannot see each other and cannot meet face to face, they're going to realize that the style of leadership of those leaders becomes much more relevant. You know, you were mentioning maybe they don't get it because they are on their ivory tower, right? You cannot be on your ivory tower anymore because you have to be in how many more times Zoom calls right now? How many more virtual events have you go through? Many more, you know, many more. Right now, it's impossible to hide. You can run, but not hide.
I love that. But I'm not sure it's so much, and I'm sure the ivory tower part of it is definitely part of it. But I think, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think where a lot of CEOs go wrong, or where they go astray, is they start their company with a great what is the word I'm looking for? Intention. So they'll put together a mission statement that has this really glorified sounding and really well-intended statement, and they kind of start working in their business rather than working on their business, and so they're doing the things the tasks that a CEO would do, rather than look at the whole picture of what the company culture is and how it's evolving. Are we staying true to that mission statement that was written when we started the company, or was that just words that we put on a poster and hung over my door, and then now we're actually doing the work and forget about that? But everybody who comes into the company must at least read it and get to know what we were supposed to be about, but we forgot what we were about. And often, and I'm going to want to get to this, there is this idea of giving back in that original mission statement that is totally lost somewhere along the line. Few years in, and you find that your mission statement doesn't match at all what you're doing, and it's just words now. I think that's a big part of it. Do you agree? And if so, how do you get them back on track to that?
Picture this, right? Let's say we have a startup CEO in front of us. Okay, so it's a small company, fired up, this new concept, this new idea, they thrive over time, right? And they become this monster, right? There's 10,000 employees or company employees. One of the main differences that are lost in translation is the communication. Is the CEO still listening? Is the CEO still going around? Is the CEO still open to suggestions, open to listening? And I think that communication is one of the most important issues here. Definitely. Because are they open to receive? You know, it sounds like a self-help kind of tagline, but are they open to receive? Are they open to receive? If you start looking at you've been a CEO, you reported to CEOs, what if you started to look at all the skills of everyone at the company, all the skills, not even the work-related skills? What could you do with those to make that environment even more engaging and more creative and even more even enticing to one another? It's like helping and caring for one another. So that's what it's lost. It's lost the ability or the willingness to listen to be open to receive what the rest of the organization is telling them. That's what you perceive. That's what I perceive. I perceive the same thing. Also, let me tell you that I don't think there are good or bad CEOs, or one strategy is good and the other is bad. I don't think so. I think that it's more what the CEO does with it. What do they do with it? I've seen the same strategy work for one CEO and fail with the other. Why? How was their team following them?
Right.
How was, how were the different levels of management following them? Did
Right.
they know? You talk about the mission. Mission is nice, but if you asked, take any Fortune 5,000 companies, employees, take all those, I don't know, millions of employees, ask them, what's your company's mission? Would you guess a percentage? Would you guess a percentage of employees that would get their own company mission right?
Probably very small.
Very small, exactly. I stayed the last employer I worked for 11 years. 11 years. I was, the mission statement changed probably 2 or 3 times, maybe more throughout these 11 years. But regardless, let me tell you, I was repeating that mission statement on every single sales presentation to my clients or business partners, whatever that was. Again, do I remember that mission statement today?
Right.
I completely forgot.
Right.
So it's not only having one, it's also how the employees we are going to engage onto that mission statement. I honestly think that mission statements should be like effortlessly learned. If they are not effortlessly learned, they're not good mission statements. Sorry, I'm a little bit disruptive, so I have to tell you that. But I believe that, at the end of the day, everything is about energy. And I would rather have 100 employees that they were able to figure out what the mission of the company is, because just they see it every single day, every single conversation, every single interaction with suppliers, vendors, business partners, clients, they would breathe that every single day. I'd rather have this 10-word statement than this massive complex, it looks so nice at our, at the entrance of our factory or whatever that is. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
If you are fully engaged, nothing else really is important, because you will follow after what your leader is telling you.
Right. So I just want to be clear on something. So, and I agree with what you said, but for our listeners, I want to be clear that a mission statement and culture are not the same thing, and that the mission statement should, and they're related, the mission statement should determine how the culture evolves of a company, but they're not the same thing. And so you talk about people who can't recite the mission statement, and that's very common. But I also find that many people can't identify the culture of a company. I'll give you an example of a small company I worked for, about 50 employees. That I walked through the door, and within 3 days, I could identify what their culture was, and it wasn't a good one. It was identifying problems, not identifying solutions. So everybody in the company, every one of those 50 plus employees, 52 or 53 employees, could tell you what the problem is with their job, why things aren't working, what their problems were with the customers. Nobody was talking about solutions. And when I went to the CEO and I said, you have a culture problem here, he looked at me like I had 2 heads, like, I don't know what you mean by that. And I said, well, your company's culture is identifying problem based. That's what it is. And so there's no moving forward in that. There's no solution based people here that are looking at something and saying, here's how we solve this problem. You have 50 people, and identifying problems is easy. Anybody could do that. You want people who are solution based. So that is common. So identifying being able to recite the mission statement is nice, but identifying your own company culture is even more important, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I agree totally. What I was trying to say is that there's this disconnect, right? How many hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars have been spent just in our country hiring someone to come up with a wonderful mission statement? Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess there's a reason to do that, right? I mean, I guess there's a reason, because, we want to make sure it's the most, people get excited about it and everybody, is behind this mission statement. But again, at the end of the day, it doesn't have a real impact in the company. But right. I agree with you completely. I mean, culture is something which is more difficult to create. It takes time. It's built every single day with every single thing that happens inside the corporation or inside the company, even if the companies are small, and that determines your willingness to be there or not. You said you just joined, you identified the culture, you went to the CEO, you told him something. Well, let me tell you, you were really lucky, because he or she could have told you, I didn't hire you to do this.
Right,
You know
right,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it wasn't that bad because at least, okay, so it is what it is, right? But I didn't hire you to find problems, but actually the culture was to find problems.
Well, he did hire me to straighten out his marketing department, and that was part of the solution to straightening out his marketing department was getting everybody in the company working on the same page, because what he had was marketing department creating its own culture and the subcultures within it, but everybody had the unique situation of identifying problems without solutions. But the marketing department had one different belief of what they were working on. The operations and the collections department had a whole different, and sales team had a completely different culture. And so we were going in a lot of different ways. So in some ways, he did hire me actually to at least figure out what his problems were for him and find out how we should address it. So my solution was to get the entire team together in a big room and have them explain what the culture should be. And anybody who wasn't, and this was a tough sell for him, that anybody who really couldn't adapt to what the new culture was going to be and help us build that culture should start putting their resume together and looking for a job elsewhere. Because I definitely one of the people who believe that if somebody's not helping you pull in the same direction, they're helping you push in the opposite direction, and they're toxic, and they should be encouraged to leave the company. If you're not part of the team, you shouldn't be in the room with the team.
What's coming to me as I'm hearing you is I think that the quality of the questions you ask your team also define the results that you get from them.
Right.
And we tend to use, myself included, obviously, we tend to raise the wrong questions. I try always to not only ask like open-ended questions, but also the how. So the how. So, okay, so we know that there are all these issues, all these cultural issues. We know there's these issues, these problems here that we have to interact with the rest of the organization. At the end of the day, marketing is it's the first stop to the world, to the audience. We want to approach them. We want to have them feel. We want them to feel appealed to come to us, etc. But how can we do that? How can we overcome these things? How can we look at this? How can we create something together? And I think that's a big difference between CEO teams which thrive compared to others which struggle a little bit, which is how can we create something together? How can we create something together which is going to replace something else? And we do it taking into consideration the entire team of the company. How? No, not if, not when, but how are we going to do it? The moment that you start asking yourself the right questions, then the conversation completely changes. And I'm sure that in this particular case that you just described, which is amazing, it's really like you were extremely blessed to be at that position because you had to fix that thing, right? You were hired to do that. Right. So, oh my God, I'm sure that the lessons that you learned there were invaluable. Because you had to create things, you had to take these people. Okay, so some people weren't on board, other people were on board. At the end of the day, you came up with, okay, let's do this together. We're gonna do it We're gonna do it together. We're gonna do it together. How are we gonna do it? Everybody's gonna contribute to do that.
Well, I found that, and what I found in this company was, number one, their hiring practice was based on just resumes. Do they have a good resume? And that was it. So, and that can be a problem if you don't really, if you don't hire with understanding the people that you're hiring, and you're just hiring off a resume, you're going to get people who aren't in line with your culture because you haven't had that talk with them. You don't know their core values and principles and don't know if they align with yours. And the second part of it, so they hired people without knowing their core values and principles. And once they were in the company, they would never fire or encourage people to leave if they were in fact toxic. So none of the directors or managers of the various departments ever let anybody go because of they didn't line up with the company. And the HR department happened to be run by the CEO's wife, which nepotism I'm always against. But so the HR department was never really held accountable in any way, because how can you hold your wife accountable, right? So they would their hiring practice was really, really bad, and basically, because I think hiring the right people definitely has to be more than just, do they have the skills and education? Do they have the values and principles of what our business is all about? And then comes back to the mission statement and what you want your culture to be. Yes.
And honestly, I always think that one time someone asked me, okay, so if you have to give one advice to one CEO, what piece of advice would you give that CEO? And I asked, can I choose a single CEO? And that person told me yes. So please, I would definitely recommend that, single female or male CEO to get married and to have a kid, so that he will start receiving the lessons that the kids give us to all of us as parents. Okay, so I'm trying to make a metaphor between what's happening inside the company,
right? I get it.
What's happening, inside the company with all of our colleagues, peers, people that report to us, and people that we report to, and what happens inside the family. Never underestimate the power of someone working with you or for you. Never, ever underestimate that part, ever, because there's always something that can happen. There's always some experience, some part of the creation process that you are undertaking with them to create, in this case, for instance, a new marketing strategy that can change this, can change the future for that company forever. So I see the same thing. So I understand it's true. I mean, not every company is hiring, for attitude, let's put it this way. How important is the attitude? If someone is willing to change, if someone is enthusiastic, if someone brings to the company every single day, they're pumped, they're fired up. Let's do it. I make mistakes, but I move on. I respect everybody. I honor the support I get from everybody. This gentleman, maybe, or this woman this lady didn't have this resume, which was amazing, right? According to the credentials written, but probably, this lady or gentleman, they might have this amazing attitude that's going to make all the difference. Right. And that when you have your team meetings, right? You have your team meetings and you have plenty of people around your table. How important is the excitement? How important is, yes, we're going to do this. Come on, we're going to have a great meeting today. And you talk about your wife, your dog, your weekend, your whatever that is. This is really, and again, this is something I'm seeing today. I think that we have to bring our personal life more into our business world. Listen what I'm saying.
I agree. Yes.
Honestly, I mean, even if we are now working remotely, it doesn't matter. Hey, we are human beings. Why do we have to leave our human personal life out the door when we get into the building, our company building? Hey, we are human beings, and I'm going to be a much better contributor to your team as much as I feel recognized and as I feel that I'm a human being that you really take consideration after, or you are considerate with me. If that happens, I'm going to give you 1,000% every single day. Why separating those two things? Why? What are we trying to accomplish? Again, I honestly think that right now there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving pieces inside corporations. I've seen a lot of CEOs these past months, and a lot of C-level executives that they have tried to find the right place, and I'm not talking about the job. I'm trying just in the same place where they are right now. They're trying to see, okay, so what's the best thing to do right now?
Right.
I mean, I had to deal, probably you had too. I had to deal with the crisis in 2001 and with the crisis in 2008, 2009. I had to deal with those crises myself with my teams. So, but this one is a different thing. So people, regardless of how powerful their companies are, they're human beings, and they're still figuring out what is going to happen in the future. How are we going to have to handle this? Human relationships remotely, all these things. And I think that this is already starting to happen, which is, again, the separation between the personal world and the business world is going to be non-existent. Really. Right. It's going to be non-existent.
I think that's a great bridge to the next thing that I want to talk to you about, because I know that you practice what you preach in this idea of giving back and philanthropy. And I think when you do that, when you include philanthropy as part of your company culture, you get people who have passionate about causes in their personal lives now putting that energy of that passion from whatever the causes are into your company and help building. Can you talk about that?
Totally. And not only that, because imagine that you know that some of your direct reports or colleagues or even supervisors, you know that they're going through something which is really hard for them.
Right.
Right now, for instance, death is on the news. Like, death is everywhere. Right. Someone that is suffering from something. So just having a reconforting conversation with someone can make a big difference. Just this small conversation, 30-second conversation. Hey, I don't know what's going on. I perceive that something is wrong. Hey, I'm here. Even if it's your boss, why not? Why not? I'm here to support you. I'm here to be there with you. So again, become more human. And to your question, I mean, the reason why I started to diligently giving back to the community was because I was traveling so much, and I was seeing so many, communities that were in a hardship, like underprivileged communities, and more importantly, a lot of kids that had to work, a lot of parents that would use their own kids to do things that they shouldn't be doing, a lot of kids outside the manufacturing plants where I would go to see the managers of those plants. I would see all those kids around those plants asking me for hey, would you buy some gum from me? Would you allow me to keep your car safe while you are inside, so you give me some pesos, these kind of things. So I was so exposed to the realities of this world, which is inequality, right? So right. You can be on the same street, and in 30 seconds of walk, you have the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and you have a kid offering you to clean your windshield, kind of thing. So I was seeing that in Latin America all the time, like for years. For 15 years, I was seeing that all the time, until I decided to take action. And I actually had a spiritual experience that triggered my change, my transition, the moves that I made personally and professionally. And I decided to start, Wisdom for Kids, which is, thank you for reminding the audience, which is definitely the foundation that I decided to co-found together with two additional gentlemen in 2017. But the idea was created in 2015 because, why are we here? Why are we doing so many things for so many people, but how are we really making sure that this inequality, that these kids, in America, there are 170 million kids. That's data from the UNICEF 2012. 170. 81 million live in poverty. 81 million.
Wow.
81 million live in poverty. Okay, so wow. I mean, that means that every time you see two Latin American kids, the likelihood of one of them being poor is high. Right now, obviously, after everything that is happening in the world, probably the amount of kids that live in poverty has dramatically increased. Of these 81 million kids, 22 million do not have access to drinking water.
Clean water is a big one. Exactly. Yeah.
22 million. I mean, 22 million. Okay. How many states of the union is it? 22 million.
I think 5.
Yeah. Okay. So imagine. I mean, that's like.
Yeah, it's huge.
Really,
we take clean water for granted in this country, and it's amazing that we are in that place. But so you talk about equality and stuff, and I understand that's a huge problem. I think what COVID has identified is, and in America at least, we've been using this phrase essentially employees since COVID started, right? And it kind of identifies, oddly enough, the essential employees are the people who are least compensated in a lot of cases. So we don't see the CEO as the essential employee in a lot of ways. The people who are out there stocking the shelves, the people who are out there working in hospitals, the paramedics, the police officers, all the people who are we now deemed as essential, somehow they're still on the bottom of the compensation model. I think that needs to be changed. And I'm not, I hate to get into politics. I'm not a communist or a socialist, whatever you want to label me. I just think we need to do more to recognize if these people are so essential, they need to be paid more, and they need to be paid a living wage, something that they can survive on and thrive on. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Totally. And this is again one case, right? You're talking about one specific situation that we see here,
right,
intrinsically affecting the the COVID era. It's now October 2020, right? And again, not willing to go down any politics route, the same as you. But the question is, how do we bridge that gap? How do we bridge that gap? Only a few minutes ago, I heard a very famous TV host talking about a fiasco with a former guest, right? That wasn't intended. That wasn't right. The other day, I was invited to a show, and that host was at the antipodes of you. Okay, so he was trying to get me in the trenches of polarization since second one. It's like, I want you to say this, and you have to say it like this, and I want you to know your opinion. And I was all the time saying, I understand that you want to know my opinion. This is my opinion. My opinion is that someone has to be in the middle bridging, building bridges. Right. Someone has to be building bridges right now. I have my opinion as anybody else, as any other voter, but someone has to be building bridges. You and I, we're both public figures. We both have we have something to do with the world. We love to be here. We love exposure, but also because of a mission. Right. We both have a mission. We both want to do good in the world. We want to do good in the business community with the entrepreneurs, the increasing number of entrepreneurs, right now in the world. But someone has to lay down those foundations and build those bridges. And that's where people are going to find me. They're going to find me in these places where I'm trying to be compassionate with everybody. Because again, compassion, it's the same thing. Inside corporations, compassion. What is compassion? Where is compassion? What is compassion internally? Right. How do you show compassion? Even to your CEO. The difficult thing is say, no, he is an ABC.
Right.
Or, exactly. That's the easy way to do. But you, as someone that, you're commanding messages to the audience, right? And you're asking questions. You know that you're changing the world. You know that there are people listening to this conversation right now, and they're saying yes, or they're saying, oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't think of this that way. And then you would have served the purpose of your show and of your life, right?
Right.
So that's exactly what is our, I think that's our, like our commitment and our role in our lives is to really be the main characters of our lives. Be the main character of your life. Don't get sidetracked because it's so easy. Hey, take responsibility of your life in the sense that be yourself, wherever you stand in the political spectrum, you name it, be yourself.
Right.
Be yourself. Do your own research. Stand up for what you think.
Right.
Be yourself. Don't allow yourself to be grabbed to the left, to the right, to the up, or to the down. It doesn't matter.
Right.
That's why obviously every time I have the opportunity of being able to answer questions like yours, I'm so thrilled.
Well, I would call what you just described being authentic. That's how I would label. Be authentic. And there is a great power in that, I think. But earlier you and I forget what we were talking about, but you said it sounds like a self-help type of phrase, and I forget what the phrase you were alluding to. But I think there's, first of all, I think there's a big influence of what we self-help stuff in business right now, and what really I find refreshing about you is that you're not calling yourself a coach, the CEO confidant. I'm hearing from so many people who label themselves business leadership coaches and things like this, and I think we get to the point, and that's a self-help term, and we get oversaturated with that. I think we're seeing an influx of too many people who want to be coaches and we're losing enough people to coach, if that makes sense. So we have so many people who are, you know what, I don't want to work anymore. I just want to teach my knowledge, and I want to, share my knowledge and be a coach rather than actually produce anything. And I think that's a tipping point where we're kind of getting close to. So talk about why you kind of steer away from that new agey kind of language in what you do.
Yeah, obviously I've made that mistake myself. I've sinned. Okay. So, all right, but yeah, not anymore. I mean, I don't call myself. Other people call me that because I was just being myself, and being authentic, and I had some other people that were following me, and I was blessed to do that the same as you, right?
Right.
But it's the other people who have to decide if that's a role and their concept of that of the word coach resonates, or is me, or it's not. In reality, I think that the most important thing is always to be yourself consistently, so the other people can learn and decide if they want to learn from you or they want to follow you. If they feel satisfied, they feel happy, they feel comfortable being with you or following you, let's say. So right. Are there a lot of people calling themselves coaches and maybe they're not coaches or they don't know what they do? I mean, I've been there. I've made mistakes. I've been fragile. I've done lots of things that they should have never done. And obviously a lot of people right now need to make, their ends meet, right? They have to have their ends meet, and they have to teach and everything. But I'd rather be teaching. I'd rather be teaching and training, let's say, than being coaching. Although right. I recognize that asking questions is the most powerful way to get into someone or something.
Right.
Asking powerful questions.
Powerful questions. I agree. Definitely.
Asking powerful questions. So, and because you are a host, so I mean, you do this every day, and you are asking me questions, obviously, that are making me think and consider my own reality from a different point of view.
Right.
Not everybody's able to do that, but that powerful questions can completely change the game at your guest's mind, but also at the way that your audience is listening to the conversation. When you are in a position, you're an entrepreneur or you are a manager or a leader, and you have a team under you, it's the power of your questions which determines the relationship you're going to have with these people and how you're going to create together with them.
Yeah.
The power of the questions. The power of the questions. You probably had, I don't know if you've ever co-hosted with someone, probably you have, a show. I always have a hard time doing it. You know why? Because right. Unfortunately, my co-hosts tend to want to make very long questions, like 1 minute long questions. And right. I hate that. I invited someone because I want my audience to learn from that person. If they want to learn from me something, they have two options. They will ask me questions, or they will get into one of my monologues online. You know what right. I mean?
Yes, I do.
I want to stay away from there, but I still want to ask difficult questions. And sometimes they get comments from my audience, the same as you probably. Oh, that was a great question. And I didn't think about that question. It was just, oh my God, when you said that triggered me that other thing. And then I said, oh, let's ask that.
Exactly. I have a reel that I put together. It's called Questions, and it's just a reel of people reacting to the question I asked them. That's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that before, and that kind of, and it's just one after another other that, and that I take great pride in that. When I get a guest to say that's a great question, I have to think about that. I say, I know I've done my job. I know I've done what I'm supposed to be doing here. I made them think about something rather than just route answers that you answer in every interview one after another. So I appreciate that answer. And you talked about, and I just want to address something you said earlier about empathy or sympathy or compassion is the word you use for your CEO. Somebody who was on about 2 weeks ago, I guess now, said to me that she was reading off statistics, and she said 71% of people working in America said they would take a pay cut if it meant they get their CEO fired. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a problem. That's a problem within yourself. And so instead of trying to get your CEO fired, maybe you should be asking yourself the question, how can I get the CEO to hear me and appreciate and just acknowledge that my ideas, not my input and ideas, not necessarily find a path, but I think most people just want to be heard by the CEO and understand that they know what your concerns are and have heard them and are thinking about them. Yes?
Totally. When I was making this metaphor of the small company, large company, you stop listening to your people.
Right.
Definitely, they want to be heard. And actually, I mean, the other day I was talking to a GM of a large retail store, and she was telling me like she can reach out to her CEO, and we're talking a multi-billion-dollar company, anytime, and he would respond, even if it was a short sentence. Anytime.
That's all you want.
Anytime. But also, let me tell you something. I mean, CEOs are so fragile as we are. They are human beings as we are. They have had the experience they have had, and they have learned what they have learned. Okay, so I think that also compassion is a two-way street. So what if the problem is that, I don't know, this CEO doesn't have a good communication team. Maybe
Right.
that CEO doesn't know how to communicate properly. There's a lot of things. Again, we are in a fast world that do not allow us to stop and think. So what are the reasons why this CEO is doing that, right? So I think there's a two-way street. And again, I'm not here to defend anybody. What I'm trying to say is,
I get you.
Oh my God, we are always burning bridges. Why not taking some more time to try to build one or try to understand the other position, which is exactly why we're not looking, we're not watching news, we're not going to social media, blah, 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 whatever, Are we really making an effort? I mean, you could conduct a survey. I'll try to do the same thing. How many good friends of yours are not friends of yours anymore since COVID started for any reason?
Oh yeah, probably 10.
How many?
Yeah.
How many? Okay,
Yeah.
so, and I don't want to mention any name or any
Right.
public figure, but oh my God, we
Yeah.
are allowing this to happen. We
Right.
are allowing ourselves that to happen, and probably one of those 10 or my 10. Oh my God, we've had so many great times together. Having a blast doing something, going to a game, going to a party, going to a meal, whatever. But now everybody's so entrenched that no, that's impossible. Oh, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break. Give yourself a break. If you and one of these 10 or one of these 10 and me, of my 10 and me, we were one-on-one, it would take 5 minutes to solve that difference that has made us not being as good friends as we were before.
Right.
So things are much more simple. So that's the same thing that happens inside corporations. You were talking about culture. It's the same thing. They don't know any better. So that's why listen, open yourself to listening. Open yourself, and the CEO can obviously open yourself to listen to other options. How can he start building a culture, and look for the help of other, trainers, of other teachers, of other CEOs, of other people that have done this consistently with good results.
Are you an optimist?
Oh, I am totally.
Good. It's good to hear. I like when people don't even hesitate with that question, and they come back with. Usually, it's they don't hesitate and they come back with, "I'm a realist, not an optimist." But I appreciate an affirmative, quick answer, no matter what. So I have your link follow up on the screen. I'm thinking that's the best way for people to
Yes.
find out more about you and get involved with you. Well, and it will be in the description, of course. What is the best route for people who want to know more about you or get involved with you? It'll get you involved in their business.
Thank you very much. The easiest way is, you see my name here, right? Angel Ribo. So my email address is very easy. It's angel@angelribo.com, which is my first name, last name.com. Angel@angelribo.com. The link that you see here, there, hold on, there.
There. Right.
Exactly. So the link that you see there actually takes you to all my social media outlets.
Right.
So you will see what I do on LinkedIn, which I am consistently there. I'm posting every day. But you will also have access to my nonprofit website, to my Facebook page, to my Instagram page. I have a pretty consistent public campaign going on about really sharing good ideas that unite us all, regardless of where we stand.
Good stuff. And it's a great way to end this. Angel, I thank you so much for your time and insight today. We're out of time, but I would love you to come back sometime and have this discussion and go a little bit deeper as time allows and your schedule allows. But I really appreciate your time and insight here today. And thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you very much, MindDoc, for having me here today. And obviously, thank you very much to all the audience for having the patience of following us. And it will be obviously a pleasure to be one-on-one with you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. Bye for now. Angel Ribo, my big takeaway from that is listening and building bridges. That's what's gonna be a big takeaway for me from that stuff. I do hope you will check out his link follow where you'll find out all the information from him and his nonprofit stuff is really, really important too, and I hope you will patronize that as well. Hope you got something out of this program today and really will take it to heart. I hope you come back, tell your friends about it, subscribe, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe there, go to minddogtv.com and get on my mailing list so you know when we're going to have great guests on. How else would you know? And questions or comments for me, please, info@minddogtv.com. info@minddogtv.com. Tonight on the entertainment edition at 8 p.m., I have Randall Dean, who is the email sanity expert. And you say, well, entertainment edition, why are we talking about email? Well, first of all, it was convenient to him. I won't lie. The time was just something that he could make. But I do think email, it goes beyond business. It's something we all struggle with. And so I thought it would be appropriate for the general audience to really get a hold on getting more managed email and not letting email just control our lives, but controlling the email, which is a tool for us. So I hope you join me then at 8 p.m. Tonight. Till then, I'm Matt Napa from the MindDog TV podcast. Thanks for coming. Have a great rest of your day and